Hello, welcome to my home.
Hi, we're going to show you the kitchen from Tudor with a twist. Come on in.
I don't know if you remember when we first started talking about the feel for the kitchen, right? And for me, so much was bringing in my history, like my family history, the beautiful things that mean so much to me that had been stored in pantry closets, stacked one on top of another. And my mom is English, and I wanted to have a bit of that British feel.
Yeah, and you're in a Tudor, so that made perfect sense. Like the whole thing just all sort of came together around that.
Yep.
So what I remember, one of the most special things to you was your collection of china, and that you wanted a place to have that where it could be on display, and you had never had that before. I remember you showing it to me like in a back closet and saying, this is going to be front and center.
Yep. And the teapots.
Yes, and the teapots.
And the teapots, they were up in a shelf. I had to like get a ladder to get up there to use them, and so that was big, yeah.
So you really knew what you wanted to have on display in this kitchen. But let's talk about the view. I mean, I feel like the view was the number one thing. This wall of windows, was really one of the first things that was important to us that we knew had to be there. But that said, then we had to figure out the storage around that because we were losing a whole wall of cabinetry. Exactly.
You were asking me about like, how did we start designing it, right? Like we were talking about it. And I remember you first saying the island has to be on legs. And I'm like panicking. What do you mean? Like storage, you're taking away, 6 inches of storage. And little by little, you started sending me pictures. And then the brass legs that you designed yourself, like drew them and then like, do you like 2 little things or 3 little things?
You were so artistic that I wanted you to have a sense of
it's all about me, right? As opposed to like you being so detail oriented and going back and forth with the people who make the brass legs. So I mean, they're gorgeous, and I love my island, and I think you did an amazing job at kind of making up for the lost storage. But I remember that's kind of how we started. Island on legs.
Right. And
right?
I really wanted the brass to feel kind of soft and subtle because it's, brass isn't like a super Tudor-y type of metal, and so I really didn't want it to be, brassy. I wanted it to feel aged, just like the house. So I was really happy with the patina they were able to get, and then we brought that in on the hardware, as well as the legs and the faucet, and, we could kind of bring it in everywhere and make it feel like it's old, just like the house.
So the second thing that kind of grounded us was the Philip Jeffries wallpaper for the breakfast nook.
Right.
You showed me that wallpaper, and I was immediately transported to this willow tree that my kids and I would hide under. It was right outside where they took their swimming lessons, and we'd go underneath it and we would hide there and say, this is our world. And that was it. Like we saw that wallpaper, and that started kind of grounding the color and the feel.
Yeah. And it was the perfect kind of blue anyway. I mean, we were sort of searching for the right kind of soft colors, I think, and you wanted things to be pretty neutral, but bringing in that blue in the banquette area, then it sort of spoke to what we were going to do with the china cabinet. So I love that it kind of brought us full circle and sort of back into the kitchen.
Then, do you remember our window trim?
Oh yeah, these windows, right?
These windows, these windows, each and every one of these little pieces of glass were handpicked by me and Sarah. We went to the factory and we chose the pieces of glass, and we had these windows made, and it just looks like it's, because there used to be a big window here, remember?
Yeah, this was your only
This is
window.
the big
like,
window.
Your view into the neighbor's house.
Into the garage and the driveway.
Mhm.
And now, I mean, they look like they've been here forever. The china cabinet. Every time I'm cooking, I go up to it because I use the casseroles, I use the bowls to put out a salad, and I just stand in front of it and decide, what am I going to use today? When before I did not have access to these things, and I use them. They're there, they're on display, I get to choose, and then I have all these other little pieces, and so that's an experience for me, just going up to the china cabinet and choosing my items. And then of course, I've got my teapots.
Yes, and we have to talk about how you now have your teapots on display. I mean, they used to be like tucked away in a closet somewhere, right?
They were in a top shelf collecting dust. I usually had 1 or 2 or 3 like on the countertop that I would kind of alternate.
Right. So that was an absolute priority. I mean, I remember just being so excited when we found the perfect spot for them. And even though it felt a little bit weird that we have them at the bar, it's like a perfect spot because they get to be on display and it becomes not just a bar, but it's a bar and a beautiful tea corner for you.
Well, and for me, I actually, I remember like looking at that wall and saying, that's where they, like I want them there. I want to see them all the time. And it's a coffee bar. It's a tea bar. More than anything else, it's also an ice cream bar.
We love those. So.
Can we talk about mirrored tile? Sarah Robertson.
Don't remember where that idea came from. But
yep.
It's such a tight space, and I think the mirror ended up being a genius thing of making it feel so much more expansive.
And it reflects the light. I mean, it's super cool. People love it when they come here. They're always commenting on that tile.
God, that is so cool. Well, there were a lot of elements that we wanted to bring into that small space, and obviously the most, remarkable element is just the door and the view out to the backyard. But we were also trying to pack in a lot of storage. We have refrigerator drawers there for your drinks. We needed a waste can. We wanted all the things for your tea, so a tea drawer and all your tea accoutrement, so to speak. And your teapot collection too.
And the dogs.
Oh, and the dogs.
And the dog food, and the dog medicine, and the dog treats, and the dog plates. Yeah. And my vitamins. I have an entire vitamin drawer.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's one thing that people overlook so often in kitchen design is the vitamin drawer. Because we all take a lot of supplements these days. So, what else do we need to say about the bar? Oh, so where did we come up with the idea for the wire mesh? Was that always kind of on the list of things? Because we do have touches of it in the kitchen.
So I just seen you use it before, and I always loved it. And so I remember just saying, I really want you to do that there.
Yeah, it felt like the perfect place for us to bring it in and be able to kind of see through those doors a little bit to what's inside, because it's pretty glassware and servingware, and so it seemed like a nice idea to be able to see into the inside. And then we decided to mirror the back too. First consideration was where you're going to be doing your prep work, and so we wanted prep work down here on the end of the island, so you would have your knives and your pots and pans and utensils, and you could do all your chopping right here down on the end of the island. And then you come around the side and you have your silverware and your plates and your plating area, and then on the far side the pull-out baskets for onions, potatoes, vegetables, and that sort of thing, and then seating down in the end. So that was kind of the general layout.
For me, the biggest surprise is how much these drawers hold. At first, I remember saying this to you. I'm like, Sarah, there's not enough room for my pots and pans, and you're like, trust me, it's gonna be fine. And I really am surprised how a pull-out drawer can really hold so many lids and so many pots and pans. The same applies to my dishes. I can't believe that this drawer so easily handles the weight of all of my plates, and so many of my plates, and I can just open it, and I have the kind of the same pleasure as I do with my china cabinet, frankly, that I can just pick and choose what I'm using so easily. So I'm very pleased with that.
Yeah, I think that you get that pleasure out of it when you open something and you can actually find what you're looking for and not have to dig through things. So that's the joy of having well-organized drawers. This kitchen isn't huge, and so we needed to pack a lot into your cleanup area. And I know you wanted recycling, you wanted garbage. Obviously we needed the dishwasher off to the side, but we had to maximize what was under the sink. And then you really wanted the custom sink with a platform for drying dishes so that you wouldn't have dishes out on the countertop.
Yeah, it's serving its purpose perfectly.
That's great. And then you have the paper towel and your waste cans right to the right of the sink. Super convenient. And we have a compost in there for you too. It can be deceptive how many bottles of oil that you can fit into one of those oil pullouts. They pack a ton of oils, like compared to an upper cabinet where you might have them on a Lazy Susan, you're gonna get like 4 times more in there.
When you designed the freezer column over there, I remember the architect going, "Oh, wait a minute, what are you doing?" Like the architect couldn't understand the concept
Of separating
them. Yes,
Okay.
and but it's worked out amazing.
Yeah, that's something that we do quite a lot now, because you find that when we move the freezer sort of out of the main cooking and prep area, that it frees up space for windows, for a bigger range, for storage. You know. One of the challenges in so many kitchens is trying to find room for a junk drawer and a charging drawer. So I thought that you had a really clever idea to put that into the china cabinet, which seemed like the least likely place, and yet it's right there by the doorway. So it's really convenient to kind of run in, charge your things, run back out the door.